Welcome to HR Happy Hour Live. You're with Trish and Steve. Hey, Steve Bose.
Good afternoon, Trish. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's like been years since I've seen your face.
Yeah, we've been busy and traveling a lot in different places in different parts of the world. We've hadn't been able to get together to do one of these shows in a couple weeks, so it's good to get back together.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I really wanted to do one last week, and I thought, oh my gosh, you're what, like 15 hours behind normal, and I was 8 hours ahead. So we would have been recording together on different days.
Yeah,
How
yeah, I feel
crazy is
bad,
that? So,
but
well,
no,
welcome back. Are you still jet lagged?
I finally felt good earlier this week. So it was a couple weeks for me on the road. Week 1, 2 weeks ago in Singapore at the HR Tech Festival Asia
Mhm.
in Singapore. That's put on by the HRM Asia team, which was a wonderful event. And thanks to them for having me, I got to present and I got to host one of the stages, the CHRO symposium for 2 days or a day and a half. And
I saw that.
phenomenal. And want to shout out my friend Tanvi Gautam. Oh, where'd her book go? She gave me her book. I don't have it right with me, but
That's
we're gonna.
okay. We can shout
Do
it
you
out
know?
next
Do
time.
you know? Do you know Dr. Tanvi, Trish? You
I
must
don't
be
know.
acquainted with her, maybe perhaps online. But she's fantastic. She's got a new book, and
Okay.
I, I can't reach it. It's back
Can't
there
reach
somewhere,
next time.
but
We'll do.
we're gonna have her on the podcast at some point. So
So I do have a question for you. So I had been to the HR Tech Festival in Singapore. When was that? 2019.
yeah,
Um,
pre-pandemic. Because last time I was
Pre-pandemic.
there as well. Yep.
For anyone that hasn't been, or even if you've been and it's been a long time, like what would you say were there certain themes? What were you hearing? Was
Yeah,
it
it
back
was.
to normal, or is it still kind of like
Yeah, Singapore is back to normal for sure.
okay?
The the pandemic took maybe an extra year over in that part of the world to kind of
Mhm.
cycle through and get things back to normal in terms of things being open and traveling, but seemed very much the same to me as it was pre-pandemic in terms of just being in Singapore. The themes were remarkably similar to the kinds of things we talk about here. I
Really? Okay.
made a couple notes. I was looking at my notes this morning, and so much talk in the CHRO symposium, where I was most
Yeah.
of my time. Of course, AI, right, and what's happening with AI and implementing AI and leveraging AI, personalization, both in the technology standpoint, but also from the employee experience point of view, and what that's like, and how you implement it, and what are some of the effects.
Can I ask a quick question on that specifically? So since you were talking primarily with CHROs, um, do you feel like or do they feel like they are prepared and understanding kind of what the AI capabilities are, or is there still like a little bit of a learning curve on that? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think from the purpose from the terms of the presenters that I heard,
Mhm.
definitely some advanced either pilots or full on implementations now of AI are
Good.
happening for sure, and then certainly some folks are still trying to explore what it is they can do with AI and where they might have the most impact, right, with implementing AI technologies or really trying to do it in a targeted manner.
Right.
Um, that was a big theme. And then the last one I'll mention real quick, because it's happening here too, Trish, I think, is sort of the how DE&I is evolving and needs to adapt. Now in
Right.
Singapore, they were mostly talking about adapting DE&I and some other programs as well, but adapting to local cultures, right? Because Asia Pacific is a
Right.
big place with lots of different cultures, lots of countries, obviously, and they're not all the same. And you can't approach, if you're a global company, you can't approach them all the same, and certainly on some of these cultural topics. So that was a theme as well. And here in the U.S., we're seeing a kind of a reevaluation by many organizations of DE&I for other reasons, perhaps, but a similar kind of evaluation going on too, I thought.
And I would love to, even if we do a longer show at some point about that, because I think we only think of like, if you're in the US, you think of just Asia Pacific as like this big catch-all, I'm guilty of that even years ago when I was working in HR, right? You
Hmm.
sort of don't think about all the nuance, culture aspects that there are even within that large, region of the world. So yeah, I mean, again, I think it's probably selfish as you're saying that. I'm thinking like, wow, we only think of it maybe from the North American perspective. So it would be really fun to hear what you learned and what you talked about in terms of the more nuanced parts of Asia
Yeah,
Pacific.
it was great. It was a great event. So happy to be out there. Glad to be back. But just you were in the other side of the world, sort of that same week, I think, or right around that same time. Why don't you share a few thoughts from the first HR Tech Europe event that you were at?
Yeah, so HR Tech Europe was in Amsterdam, which I probably in another day or two I'll be fully back on US soil time. So a little bit tired. But can I like is it too much if I say like this was like my favorite event? Like
You're
we go
allowed to say that.
we no, seriously, like, we go to a lot of events, and, so for the entire team that put on HR Tech Europe, it was great, and here are some things I liked about it. It was a manageable size. I know that, like, pre-pandemic, it was all about big, big, big events. This one was a good size event,
Mhm.
but it wasn't overwhelming,
Okay.
and I think that's the balance I was looking for after especially after being, under lockdown for quite a while. I kinda got to where, as an extrovert, I don't like to be in huge crowds where it's just too much, overwhelming. I felt like it was, still all of the vendors and all the booths and all the things I wanted to see, but the way it was arranged and laid out and the flow of the sessions, like this
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest here. Normally, when we go to events, I don't know about you, but, like, for me, I fly in, I do my thing, I might look at a few things, and then I'm out, right? I'm
Yeah.
not listening to other people. So I wrote down, Madeline Laurano, I heard her talk about global, tech trends, especially with regard to the talent acquisition space. Phenomenal. I mean, I've known her forever, she's one of my best friends, but I haven't heard her speak in a long time. The other one is a shout out to Jason Averbook from Mercer. I have not heard him speak since we were at probably, HR Tech Festival, right,
Sure.
5 years ago. Oh my gosh, like, I encourage go Google them, watch any videos they have, like, he was phenomenal. And the last one is Hung Lee. Um, do you remember Hung Lee? Have you met him? He does the,
I don't know if I've met him, but I know who he is. Yeah.
yeah, so from the UK, he did a whole thing on the 2024 talent shortage. But what was really interesting was he did such a deep dive on not just the fact that, you and I sometimes talk about sort of the decline in the uh I guess the oncoming generation, right? The birth rate
Yeah.
is lower and we're seeing sort of a shortage just from the actual total number of people. But he was really digging into the numbers on where the uh, working able people are located. So
Mm.
it was a lot around just really thinking differently strategically around where should jobs reside? How do you then move people appropriately? Are they remote? It was just such a deep dive on that. So super interesting. Next year it is on March 4th and 5th. So plan now. If you have any desire to go to Amsterdam. Also, can I tell you, I've not been to Amsterdam before and it was lovely.
Did you go to the Rijksmuseum and see
I
the Rembrandts?
Oh, I did. Do you see my shirt?
Oh,
I
lovely.
have all the Rembrandts. Oh, that's funny you said that because also, guess what? I did a few weeks ago, I said we interviewed the head of talent acquisition for Primark, and I was gonna try and go in
Yes.
Philadelphia. Yes, and I did not get a chance to go in Philadelphia, but there's one
That's a
in
miss.
Amsterdam, and so this is my new Primark sweatshirt.
Oh, yes. Excellent. Yeah, so we did the podcast with John
Yes.
Hadid from Primark a few weeks ago now, and that's out on hrhappyhour.net if you want to give that a listen, all about retail employee experience and frontline workers. It was a great show. Really, really good show, actually. But yeah, check that out.
Yeah, and it made me really appreciate not just Primark, but that conversation we had with him on thinking about both quality of product, pricing of product, what it's like to work in retail on the floor right now. I just viewed it as a shopper in a much different light, and so, yeah, I did buy quite a few things. I won't share them all right now, but, he mentioned we had a collaboration with Disney and Primark.
Mhm.
I did purchase some of the Disney, things, both clothing and other items, so,
Yeah,
yeah, it
I
was
think
really good.
I will save this for another show, perhaps. But the other event I was at, Trish, was Qualtrics event, Qualtrics X4. I was there last week in Utah, and shout out Jack McFarland was there with me for a day as well. He did a great job on site with me. But the thing that kind of makes me think of it is when you talk about Primark, the example that we had, both the things we talked about with John Hadid on the
Mhm.
podcast, your experience, right, shopping there recently,
So good.
and what Qualtrics spent a lot of time talking about, and is really kind of the backbone of their business, is this idea of experience management, both from a customer perspective
Mhm.
and an employee perspective. And then certain in certain applications and in certain case studies that I saw, really talking about connecting the two, right? Connecting,
I love
improving employee experience and being really mindful about employee experience,
Mhm.
and how that helps to drive customer experience and better outcomes, right, for the business. And that real through line through data, and a lot of it's AI since it's 2024. Qualtrics has a really great story. We chatted a little bit before the show, Trish. I think what I'd like to try to do is get someone from Qualtrics to join us
Mm.
on one of these H3 Lives soon, and we'll talk about that some more. But shout out to them. Thanks for having me, and a really, really great event, including Trish, an interview on stage with Michelle Obama, which was fun. We've seen her once
Isn't she
before, I
great?
believe. I have seen her once before. I think you were there with me that day.
Yes.
She was fantastic, as well as basketball superstar Dwayne Wade was in the house, and
Oh, wow.
he did a great talk and a Q&A as well. And then gold medal skier Lindsey Vonn, who was fantastic as
I'm
well.
sure.
So Qualtrics pulled out all the stops as well for their event. And I left. I sadly had to go. I had to leave. I was so tired. I left before the Backstreet Boys concert. So I did not go to that, but I heard it
You.
was fun. So thank
I'm
you to
sure it was.
Qualtrics, and we'll talk some more about them, I'm sure.
You know what? And one last thing I know as we wrap up here, I want to circle back on this whole idea of that through line that you mentioned, because that's really what I was hearing in Amsterdam as well. It's that tying of your siloed data to other data. And so I want to give a shout out to our friends at Visier, specifically Lexi Martin, because I happened to just tweet that I was going to be doing a session on people analytics. And this is what I still love about X, right? Twitter. Um, I just tweeted out that I was going to be there. She sent me a link to one of the most current Vizier reports with a specific page indicated, and it was like exactly the kind of information I would want to share. And so you might find this interesting. So of course I created my whole presentation on people analytics and the business, and I was ready to go with that. About 40 slides, of course, and I got something just clicked that day that I was supposed to do this, and I walked through the rain to get to my session. So I was kind of like a drenched rat a little bit, and I had still had my tennis shoes on, and I thought, you know what? I just want to be comfortable in this presentation. I'm not going to put on the heels. My hair is now a mess. So I want people to be comfortable with people analytics, right? So I went with the whole kind of comfort theme, and
Ah, love
I
it.
asked the entire room before we got started. I said, I am here and ready and prepared to give you the presentation, or we can do like an unconference session. And no one in the room had ever been to an unconference before or an unconference session. So I kind of first explained what that was. I got their buy-in, and I said, now the difference is going to be, instead of using sort of these canned case studies, you all will have to participate. You're going to have to tell
Oh,
me whether you've used people analytics or not, right? And it's kind of, we're all in this together. Oh my gosh, Steve, it was the most fun I've had in a session in ages. Like, these people tied it all back to what Vizier had shown us in terms of that flow, right? From the people side of specific analytics to the other supply chain
mm,
analytics, your finance metrics, your marketing metrics, right? All of it together. I had some of the best examples I've ever had in my life in a
nice.
session. It was so fun.
Well,
So
good.
anyway,
Well, we've got loads to get to.
I
Let's
know.
wrap it up, Trish, because we both are down the road next week. We're going to be at a UKG event
Yes.
next week in Las Vegas, and we'll figure out how to maybe do a little show from there. How about that?
That sounds good. Hey, and everyone, thanks for following us. Be sure to message us. You can tweet us. You can catch us on LinkedIn. But let us know, what are you interested in as we're out and about? I mean, obviously, I think we're going to be continuing to talk about analytics and data and AI, right? But what else? What else is interesting? Let us know. And with that, we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.